Welcome to our first official video for Boss Battle Life on YouTube. Last week we had our official launch of Boss Battle Life on YouTube, where I sort of gave you the introductory, the welcome, let you know what my plans were in the near future and in the distant future, and now it's time to put rubber to the road, and it's time to actually start doing it. So we're going to start off with the news, because I can't afford production value and I can't get famous people to interview right now. So we're starting off with news that might be geeky, nerdy, or uplifting, or I'm going to try to combine those. And we're going to start off in the realm of science and talk a little bit about nuclear fission. On the Boss Battle Life group a few days ago, or a week or so ago, I shared an article about a 12-year-old boy who had managed to build his first nuclear fission reactor. Well, it looks like that might be getting to be a bigger thing here soon, as we've started the 5-year assembly phase in, I'm sorry if I mispronounce this, I am not French, but it's Saint-Paul-les-Durance in France. It's a 5-year development phase. Nuclear fission is the first source of power that does not exploit a naturally occurring fuel. It smashes hydrogen to form helium. It is a very clean energy source, but it's kind of the stuff of science fiction, because right now it uses more power to create it than what it outputs. But it's still very big news for those of us that are fans of the sci-fi genre, because this is one of those things that we don't know what we don't know. This was a myth. This was an impossible feat to achieve. And here we are, and we're 5 years away from seeing some sort of fruit come of this. And, much like the teleporter technology in Star Trek, or droids in Star Wars, or basically everything in Doctor Who, there is a point in real life where it separates into the realm of fiction. And we're coming a little bit closer to that, so maybe this nuclear fission technology will actually help us reach the stars. I believe that we actually used that in Star Trek. I believe nuclear fission was an early form of propellant for the spaceships and that. But this opens up so many possibilities for us as a species, and it's clean. It's not going to have the possibility of fallout from like Chernobyl and 3 Mile Island. We're not going to see that. So there are a massive amount of possibilities with this, other than just powering your home. And honestly, even powering your home with clean energy is very exciting. This is absolutely incredible, and we're going to continue on, and we're going to stay in the realm of science here a little bit. And there was an article that I read here recently, and I'm going to be including the links to all these articles down in the description. Be sure to check those out. I might give you a little bit of misinformation based on how I interpreted them. Please, please, please check my work and comment on it. I said in the first video I would like if you could tell me what I'm doing right and tell me what I'm doing wrong. Well, in these early videos, I imagine I'm going to be doing a lot more wrong than right. But we're moving on to another exciting scientific situation where a 12-year-old boy in Alberta, Canada, discovered a dinosaur fossil, like a skeleton. And for those of us who have watched Jurassic Park, we know how exciting that's mythologically exciting to us. And a 12-year-old boy did it. The boy's name was Nathan Hrushkin, and the dinosaur that he found was the hadrosaur. So I don't even know what a hadrosaur is. I think I'm going to be Googling it immediately after I make this video. But Nathan had said that his favorite dinosaur was the T-Rex, and he was really hoping that he had found a T-Rex, but he found the hadrosaur, and now the hadrosaur is his favorite dinosaur. It's very much like how I have an older brother, and so therefore my favorite Nintendo character is Luigi, because he always made me play Player 2. Well, you just learn to embrace what you get. And Nathan, if ever you see this video, I'm sorry you didn't find a T-Rex, but I'm very excited for you for finding a hadrosaur. And I'm sure that anybody who has ever been a fan of dinosaurs in their lives, I'm sure that they can express their excitement at your discovery of this dinosaur. And, you know, I'm encouraging input in the comments section. So what's your favorite dinosaur? I personally am a fan of the pterodactyl. But leave a comment. Tell me about your favorite dinosaur. Continuing with science, we have 8 countries here recently that have signed into lunar accords. That is called the Artemis Accords, of course, named for the Greek goddess of the moon. The accords cover how to handle lunar mining situations, which I didn't even know was a thing. Once again, we're going into the sci-fi realm here, but covers how to handle lunar mining and any disputes that may occur on the surface of the moon. Once again, moon wars. Sounds cool. In reality, wouldn't be. But if there are any authors listening or watching, moon wars, make it happen. The countries involved were the US, Australia, Canada, Luxembourg, Italy, the UK, and the United Arab Emirates. Other countries may come in later. But as a fan of Futurama, I really just need to ask one thing. How long until we get an amusement park? Whalers on the Moon has been stuck in my head for years. Make it happen so that I can get it out. We're moving on to another category within geek, nerd, and geek and nerd culture, and that is video games. And many of you may have heard about, I'm sure I'm mispronouncing this and I apologize, but CD Projekt Red's upcoming game, Cyberpunk 2077. They got Keanu Reeves in the trailer. Looks like an excellent game, and it's from the people that brought us the Witcher games, which those are excellent games as well. But they are facing a little bit of backlash here recently, and there's a Forbes op-ed about the backlash that they are getting because they, in order to make their deadline of November 19th of this year, they have begun mandating overtime for the developers and the programs. They are now going to be working 6 days a week, and the programmers and the developers didn't really get an input in this. It's just, you're going to do this in order to make your deadline, and they're going to be working their normal hours plus 1 day on the weekend. The overtime is going to be paid. In the United States, that is not necessarily something that happens with programmers. They've faced crunch times before in the United States. It's actually very common practice to just make them work themselves basically to death. And this op-ed talks about how we need to see humanity in these people, and it's not about a deadline. There was actually mention within the article about the developers for Apex Legends, a studio by the name of Respawn, actually delayed their release for Apex Legends because one of the developers had an adoption hearing because they saw the programmers as human beings. And this is something that I have actually expressed in the past. As geeks and nerds, we cannot let our desire for new products, for new movies, for new games, new comic books to compromise our compassion for other people. I'm very excited about this game, but if they had to push it back until February or even July of next year, we would have been upset. But if they had told us why, that this is about their programmers and keeping them having a good work-life balance, I think that we should at least be understanding of that. And I would just like, I would like to reinforce that. Please, for the developers, I can't do anything about that. I can't change what CD Projekt Red. I believe it's CD Projekt Red or something like that. I can't remember the exact pronunciation. But, they need to make human choices. Onto films, TV, and something that is now substantially more common, streaming. And that's actually what we're going to right now, as there's an article about Disney restructuring, and they are going to be pushing more for their Disney Plus releases, which the reason for this is because of the COVID-19 epidemic, and that, of course, changed the world in some very substantial ways. And one of those ways was it closed down theaters. There have been some wonderful things that have occurred because of this, particularly with Disney Plus, in that Hamilton, the musical, was supposed to release in theaters next year. And they said, we don't know what's going to be happening with that. We're doing it now. We're putting it on streaming. And nicely, they made it free to people that subscribe to Disney Plus. But then on the other side of the spectrum is the release of Mulan that was supposed to also come out in theaters, and they put that on Disney Plus for $30. But they are combining all the media business into a single organization, so hopefully they will have a more cohesive idea of how to release things onto streaming. There are some things that, some theater releases that are being pushed to Plus, such as Soul, the Pixar movie Soul. If you haven't seen a trailer for that, please watch the trailer for that and be prepared to cry. But Soul is supposed to be releasing on Disney Plus in December. No word yet on if we are going to have another Hamilton type situation or if we are going to have another Mulan situation with that. But there are some very exciting things happening with this. Like, I come from a time period when it would take years, literally years. I think it was about 2 years before a theater release would come onto VHS. And now we are living in a time where, just a year ago, it was about 6 months on average before a theater release came out onto DVD or out onto streaming. Well, now we're skipping the entire theater process, which there's good to that and there is bad to that. And on the subject of, Disney even, and theaters, is Thor Love and Thunder is about to start shooting in March. They are going to be shooting in Australia. It has a February of 2022 release date, and it is scheduled for theatrical release. So they have some faith that the COVID pandemic is going to be sane enough for us to go back to living our fairly normal lives in February of 2022. So we can at least look forward to 2022. It's going to be Taika Waititi is going to come back to direct. He, of course, was the director of Ragnarok, and he was the voice of the giant rock guy whose name I have forgotten, and he is absolutely hilarious. But we have Christian Bale is coming in as a yet unnamed villain, and Christian Bale is a phenomenal actor, and of course, we know him as Batman. Can't wait to see what he does, but even bigger, and I hope that I'm not spoiling anything here. I hope that you have already heard about it, but Natalie Portman is going to be in the lead. Natalie Portman is going to be yielding Natalie Portman is going to be holding the hammer. Natalie Portman is going to be Thor. This is extremely exciting. Jane Foster was Thor within the comic book mythology, and it chronicles not only her being Thor, but also within the context of the movie, she is fighting cancer. So she has a very real enemy that she is facing, a very psychological enemy that she is facing, in addition to the massive Marvel big bad that is apparently being played by Christian Bale. She is going to have to face both things, and I am sure that, as much as I know that it's going to be hilarious with Taika Waititi at the helm, I'm sure that it is going to pull on our heartstrings, and it is going to make us think a little bit too. So this one, there are other Marvel movies in the works, but this one really has my attention, and I am more than likely going to be posting a specific review here on Boss Battle Life YouTube once that movie comes out, because I am sure that they are going to cover a lot of bases that I care about and that Boss Battle Life cares about. Other movies, switching from Marvel to DC. If you have not yet seen the trailer for the movie The Batman, please watch that. I will not be linking to that, but if you're on YouTube, just go ahead and type that in. So it is a new Batman movie, and it stars Robert Pattinson. Now, most people know Robert Pattinson as that sparkly vampire. People were not happy about Robert Pattinson. I am familiar with the internet. I am familiar with how some of us choose to voice our opinions. I have seen those opinions, and they were not positive. However, this has changed a lot of people's views. Watching this trailer has changed a lot of people's views on how Robert Pattinson is going to handle being Batman. It covers Batman at a younger age. But the point that I would like to make here is way back when the first Tim Burton Batman movie came out, Tim Burton chose Michael Keaton. He chose Michael Keaton because he had worked with him on Beetlejuice before and knew that he was great to work with. But Michael Keaton was known as a comedic actor. Tim Burton chose to roll the dice and make him Batman. If you go back and watch those old Batman movies, Michael Keaton was phenomenal. So, yeah, I know that some people watching this may have been some of the ones voicing their disapproval about Robert Pattinson. So what I ask is, please give a chance. You know, they're actors. You never know what their range is. Just because a personal example, when Robert Downey Jr. was cast as Tony Stark, as Iron Man, I was extremely upset. I personally thought that they should have gone with Greg Kinnear, and we see how this has worked out for Robert Downey Jr. People cannot imagine that role not being him. And honestly, I know I would have liked Greg Kinnear, but I am extremely happy with it. So please don't try to judge these casting decisions. And once again, going back to the games, the decisions to delay, try not to judge those too harshly. This movie, The Batman, has actually encountered a delay. Its release date, I forgot to write down what the original release date was, but it saw a delay, and it is now scheduled to release on March 4th, 2022. So again, we're in 2022 for a theatrical release, I assume. So we should be good for COVID in 2022, according to people in Hollywood. So there's that. I'm going to be linking to, in the description, I'm going to be linking to the article, but it shows pictures of Zoe Kravitz, who is going to be playing Selena Kyle, who is, of course, Catwoman. And we got Colin Farrell is going to be playing Penguin. Once again, not really what people would think. People would want a heavier set actor, but if you take a look at these pictures, and he has facial prosthetics, he doesn't look like Colin Farrell. The transformation was absolutely amazing. I personally am very much looking forward to this movie, and I feel like anybody that is a fan of Batman, please don't write this one off. Just because it's Robert Pattinson or it's got a darker tone, again, for the DC movies, please do not write this one off. And that's really all of the news that we have, but there is one additional link down there in the description. So once again, I encourage you to click those links down in the description. Please click on those links, because something that I'm going to try to be doing is I'm going to try to put At the end of all of these videos that I'm doing, I want to do a spotlight on section, and that is going to be putting the spotlight on people within our geek and nerd community that might be otherwise marginalized. The definition of that is going to be, kind of fluid, but what I'm putting the spotlight on right now, and I don't have a whole thing to talk about, I've just got the link in the description, but the website Book Riot here on the 12th actually put out a list of books written by Native North American women, and it is the 10 best books by Native North American women, which, to be honest with you, is not a category that I had ever considered. So I would encourage you to read through that list of 10 books and the list itself, and see if anything jumps out at you. And maybe if it does, pick up the book, support the author, and broaden your horizons a little bit. I know that I'm going to be going through that list very closely and be jumping on a website to buy books here pretty soon. I'm not going to say what the website is because they don't sponsor me yet. But go through that list of books and see if there's anything that you would like to pick up and broaden your horizons a little bit. So that's how we're going to be wrapping up this video. So I'd like to say, you all know how YouTube works. Please like, subscribe, so that you can see our videos as they come up, immediately as they come up. Like, subscribe, and as always, face your bosses.